It's stage 10 of Giro d'Italia. Cordonons to Altopiano del Montasio. 167 kilometers for the riders today. And there are 14 riders out front. And the peloton being led, as you might expect, by the Astana squad of race leader Vincenzo Nibali. Nibali safely ensconced in the group, not too visible at the moment. You do see him just behind one of the Sky riders on the right-hand side. So too, also at the front, Bradley Wiggins, and he'll be absolutely delighted to see there's plenty of sunshine. It's bright conditions, clear conditions at the moment. We've heard that there could be a 50-50 chance of rain on the stage. There's no sign of it at the moment. Conditions very good indeed at the finish at Altopiano del Montasio. Bradley Wiggins says he's in top climbing condition, as good as he's ever been, if he can just deal with those descents, that little glitch. There's been so much talk about it. I mean, Sean Kelly is alongside me, and Sean, I kind of almost feel sorry for Bradley Wiggins. There's been so much talk about his difficulties on the descent. It's he's under the public microscope, but in reality it's something that, it's a little problem for him. He will deal with it, and a few good dry days will probably help greatly for him.
Yes, well, as big favourite, you're going to be under the microscope, and that's certainly be the case with Bradley Wiggins. In the last number of days, we've seen the TV camera in the real bad conditions, you know, staying with him on the descent, and no matter where he is in the peloton, they seem to be following him about. But that's part of, you know, that's part of it. You have to be able to accept that. And Bradley's had trouble in the the last number of days, but hopefully we'll get a bit of the right conditions, and you get the confidence back slowly as well. You get a dry day or a couple of dry days, then you start going downhill real well again, able to follow comfortable in the wheels of the other riders, and then you get the confidence back. But he did suffer for a bit, so hopefully that it will be better conditions. But again, today we are in good conditions at the moment, but it's possible you could get showers, or that's the forecast at the moment. You could get a shower here or there, and hopefully we will not get them in the wrong time, because we've seen in the first week of racing there were some really difficult days there in the final downhills with really wet conditions. Nobody likes that, and of course there's some riders who can go down well and they can take advantage of it, but hopefully the next number of days will be better conditions and better racing for everybody. Because also you must remember the riders, injuries from falls, but also you can pick up problems with the wet weather all the time, and riders can also get sick quite easily with the wet conditions. So hopefully as we go into more difficult conditions, and we are going into that today, because today is the first real day of big mountains, and I think it's a test for the general classification, but it's the real test. And we did see on Sunday Heidal, the defending champion, in difficulty just in the final, but today will be a day, if you get into difficulty, well, then you could lose many minutes.
Yeah, many people have said that this is a stage where the winner is not like, it's not going to be won today, but it could be lost. This is the day where a couple of general classification contenders, or people who believe that they can get in amongst them, are going to find out the true reality of that.
Yes, I think on the final time today there's going to be fireworks from the general classification men, and it all depends. The breakaway at the moment, the breakaway have a nice advantage. Just 7:50 was the last time check we're hearing coming through, which just over 72 kilometers to go. But it's going to be interesting. Like, will they start pushing on and start closing down the breakaway, or will they allow the breakaway go on and contest for today for the for the stage victory? But we could see fireworks anyway, because there's some of the riders here that will be trying to prove something, some of the general classification men. But if we come for a stage victory, well, then it's going to be more exciting again, because there's a lot of riders who want to get a stage victory, like the climbers, the Colombians, Pozzovivo, Betancourt. They're all very hungry for a stage, and this is the first opportunity for them.
Carlos Betancourt, perhaps. Colombian riders, let's look for those, whether they're in their own team, Team Colombia, or in AG2R, or perhaps one of the Sky Colombians. Can you imagine? We've heard so much talk about the fact that they've got 3 riders in the top 10, and perhaps Bradley Wiggins might think about sending one of his riders up front to test Vincenzo Nibali, and how would Nibali react in terms of chasing them?
Well, that's going to be an interesting one as we get into the real difficult terrain, the interesting terrain in the final stage here, the final climb today, and it's a long one. Like, it's the best part of 20 kilometres, and the final 10 kilometres, they're very difficult sections in it, and it's a real difficult climb. Like, we go up to 25%, so it's going to be a real leg breaker, and If the race is very active and very aggressive, well then we could see maybe Sky sending riders in the attacks. It depends on who go in the attack. If you look at the general classification, for example, there's riders who are a bit further down, they might try something, and we could see, you know, some of the men from the teams who have a bit more cards to play than just one leader.
14 riders up front. Let's give them a quick name check once more as they toil away in the sunshine. A couple of riders from Radio Shack, Jaroslav Popovic and Tiago Machado. Daniele Benati's in there for Saxo Tinkoff, Kenny De Haas of Lotto Belisol, Elia Viviani of Cannondale, David Miller and Thomas Decker for Garmin, Martin Chilinghi of Team Blanco, Jackson Rodriguez and Droni Giocattoli, Serge Powells of Mega Pharma Quickstep, Oscar Gatto of Vinnie Fantini, Pim Lichtart of Vacansoleil and Pavel Brut of Katusha. It's a big group up front at the moment. Tweets coming in thick and fast. Quite a few to tell me to turn my phone to silent. It's done now. Thank you for that. Yeah, the more tweets came, the more noise it made. And yeah, quite a few questions about whether the fact that Garmin have two riders in the break, David Miller and Thomas Decker, whether they could be a launching pad for rider Hejidal. Will they be of any advantage to him when a bit later in the stage?
Well, it's difficult to see the men they have up front. I don't think they're the better climbers, so the first climb of the day they could be already in difficulty, and they could be, you know, left behind by some of this breakaway of 13 riders. Radio Shack also have two men up there, and when you look at the Radio Shack man Tiago Machado, very much up in the general classification because he's in the best place at 15.26, and then you have Serge Powells from Omega Pharma, who's the second best at 33.35, and then Jackson Rodriguez, who's the next best man at 38.55. So you know, the Radio Shack rider there, Machado, he is looking good. Also Jackson Rodriguez, you know, the better climbers you have there. I think Powells as well, he can put in quite a good performance on the climbs. He is able to get up them quite well, and in the breakaway he's not with the real big climbers, the real strong men, so I think he's also one of the better ones up there. But for me, unfortunately, Garmin sharp the riders Decker and Miller. I don't think they will be up to it in the end if this break is allowed to go on and contest for the stage victory. But at the moment it's certainly not the case, because the advantage, you know, just over the 8 minutes, they have to take more than that, and it depends on what happened this climb. You know, the first category climb of the day, if there's a lot of action in the bunch, that advantage will come down very, very quickly.
Malia Rosa group, the peloton being led by the Astana team. Got a quick shot of Dmitry Guzdev, who fell close to the finish on the stage 2 days ago. Pim Lichtart on the front of the break for Vacansoleil, and Daniele Benati beside him. A couple of gallopers in there. Benati's got a turn of speed. Kenny De Haas is a sprinter, and other riders who are good in the time trial, but perhaps with less facility on the climbs of the... You've already flagged Tiago Machado. He's a little bit further down on GC than might be expected, so you'd suggest that he might have a great chance if any of these breakaway riders are going to be able to hang on out front? Yes,
well, he is a bit further down than you would expect him at this point in the race, certainly, because he is a rider who can do, you know, a good overall classification in the top 15 of a big tour. He's a long ways off at the moment, but maybe the first week just in difficulty getting into the race, the first number of days, and losing a bit of time on a number of occasions, but possibly he's, you know, getting into the rhythm of things, and today get into a breakaway. I think that's what you've got to do, because you know, at that plus 15 minute down on the other general classification, and that's what you have to go and try and get into a breakaway, pull back a number of minutes, and then see if he's in the form. And I think we will see, if they go on further here on the climb, we will definitely see him out front. If he's not in, you know, the top 3 or 4 strongmen of the breakaway, well, then it tells us that he's not in form. So today is maybe a test for him, as well as you know, for us to see how he's going. He's probably maybe a bit in the unknown, that struggling the earlier part, but trying to, you know, to get into the rhythm of the race for the final 2 weeks.
Martin Thornton wants to know if there are time bonuses for the mountaintop finishes. He thinks Sky will try to target them. Yes, there absolutely are. This year, as a bit of a change to the programme and a bit of an innovation, the Giro organisers have introduced a time bonus for all the stages of 20 seconds for the first rider across the line, 12 seconds for second, and 8 seconds for third. There are also time bonuses out on the road in the intermediate sprints, of which there are 2, and First of those isn't too far away now, but the breakaway group are obviously going to take that. 14 riders out front. Stage 10 of Giro d'Italia, with the Astana team controlling the pace on the lead group of the Maglia Rosa. Meanwhile, the breakaway group is working in unison, and they've now established an 8-minute advantage. 14 riders broke away from the group. I understand there are 13 still left in this group out front, and they're working well together to try and stay clear for the stage honours today. That's their major target. No real major contenders overall. The best placed of all of these riders in general classification is Tiago Machado of the Radio Shack squad. He's 41st overall at 15 minutes and 26 seconds. And those 13 riders have plenty of other things to think about during the day, as Pim Lichtart goes for the intermediate sprint. First of two today, and he's been, as I say, quite active during the week. He's leading the Pinarella Fuga competition for combativity and kilometres spent out front. Won't have an opportunity to score points towards that or add kilometres to his total in that, because it only really counts when you're in a breakaway group of 10 or, well, less than 10 or more, and you don't get to score for that particular competition. But still, he's having a look at the intermediate sprints competition as well.
And Viviani takes it. Surprisingly there, I was expecting Benatti to go for, he was up there and he was looking relaxed, you know, looking just waiting for the moment to take Pim Lichtart as they went for the line. But no, it was Viviani who took it, and we could see that when he wasn't getting Daniel Benatti, he really knocked off the gas and just finished third. So Lichtart second in the first intermediate sprint, and it's from here where it really kicks on. From this intermediate sprint, it starts to go up and up gradually until we get into the, you know, the real difficult climb here, and it's a long one. Halfway at about the 8 kilometre mark, there's a little bit of a respite where it goes downhill for a bit, and then it's up for another 7 or 8 kilometres. So it's going to be, you know, one of the longer climbs we've had in this Giro, and then the final one, of course, it's a difficult one today.
Well, Lichtart never had a hope of winning that if Elia Viviani showed interest in it, but still managed to score some handy points towards the intermediate sprints competition. Led at the moment by Cam Worth of Australia, Viviani's teammate, so that's why Viviani was particularly motivated to try and take those points. Lichtart, though, has edged a little bit closer to Worth's lead in that competition. So beautiful scenery for the riders as they make their way across bridges, through hairpins, and little of it of any concern to them. We're in the Friuli region again for the first time since 2011. Back in Friuli, some say to make amends for the debacle on the Krustis climb. That year, the intention was that climb would be introduced into the Giro d'Italia, but unfortunately, it had to be eliminated or removed from the race route the evening before, because it was objected to by team managers. The intention was that it's not a particularly well cared for hill, so the idea was that they were going to send the riders up it and they'd be serviced by motorbikes carrying wheels. But team managers didn't like that. They wouldn't have any control of their riders or be able to give them instructions, so they removed the Krusties the night before. The fans revolted, and they had to make further route adjustments the following day. So we're back in Friuli, and this time there's unlikely to be any complaints about the race route. As we head towards Alto Piano del Montasio, for the first time it's hosting a Giro stage finish. And it is a doozy of a climb, really. It's 22 kilometres of climbing on that final hill in total. Sean, it's the last 11 kilometres are particularly difficult, and there are ramps of as much as 20% during it, and we're on the climb before that is certainly going to soften up the legs. There's confirmation of the intermediate sprint. Elia Viviani takes it from Pim Lichtart and Daniele Benatti. But this is a tough climbing day for these riders, and we'll have a very, very good idea of who's capable of winning this year's Giro at the conclusion of it.
Yes, I think we will see a clearer picture today, and you know, it's one of the big days of the Giro, when you go into the big mountains on the first day and you get a mountaintop finish. If you had two big climbs like we have here today, but you know, a downhill 20-30 kilometers to the finish from the final climb, but that's not the case. It's a mountaintop finish, and you know, that's a bit of concern for everybody in the general classification in the big mountains first day and the mountaintop finish also. So it's going to be a bit of a worrying time, and you know, we did see already some of the favourites, Heidal, the noticeable one, and Tom Danielson, the two of the Garmin Sharp men, losing, you know, just over a minute on Sunday stage. Interesting to see, will they recover, because if you start losing, you know, a minute here and a minute there on these mountain finishes and the mountaintop finishes, you can lose more, of course. Well, it's going to be difficult for Heidal, and the question is, who else? Will there be somebody else today, another one who will start to lose a bit of time? I'd not be surprised if we do see some of the real big favourites starting to, you know, show a little bit of weakness.
And if you think they're just promenading behind, with the Astana team just setting a very relaxed tempo, well, you only had to get an indication from the back of the bunch with Steve Cummings swinging around at the back. I don't think in any difficulty of getting dropped, but you can be absolutely sure that this pace is very testing and demanding for all the riders in there. Lots of questions coming in about Bradley Wiggins' tactics. Why are Sky not controlling this race the way they normally control races? Go to the front and peel off and leave their top guy to take it on in the last moments of the last climb. It doesn't seem as controlled as normal. Is the sort of the refrain, the constant question that's coming? So
well, I think you have to look at the race, you know, the situation, the overall classification, and you know, Bradley Wiggins, the Sky team, doesn't have the pink jersey in this case, and you know, a lot of our viewers may be thinking about the Tour of France last year when Bradley Wiggins was leading. We see the Sky train on the front every day controlling it, and that's what you've got to do. The situation at the moment, the riders on the front from Astana, they've got the pink jersey with Nibali, and they are controlling the race, and that's the you know, the understood tactic. And Sky doesn't have to do any riding at the moment. They have to just to follow this race and wait for the final climb. And as you come to the climbs themselves, you know, they move up and put Bradley Wiggins in the top 15, 20 riders as we go on to the climb, and just get into the same situation, allow Astana to do the pace setting for a long time during the day, but on the final climb of the day we could see Sky maybe upping the pace and really putting the pressure on, and as they say in cycling terms, turning up the screw, just make everybody put everybody in difficulty and put as many of the big favourites and really test the guys. And today could be the day we could see Sky doing that. If Bradley Wiggins is, you know, feeling good, well, he has a bit of time to make up in the general classification, and today is an opportunity. If he feels up to it, we could see that happening in the final climb of the day.
Peloton on the lower slopes of Casson de Lanza, fully 14.5 kilometres long, maximum of 16% gradient. There's a little bit of a 2 kilometre descent in the middle, which skews the average gradient of the hill, so no point in giving you that statistic, but I can tell you it's an average of 10.6% from kilometres 8.5 to 13.5, so this is a bit of a leg breaker. You can tell by the way the riders up front are starting to feel the pinch as the spectators arrive in their droves to Altopiano del Montasio. Peloton streams across the bridges, and lots of little bumps, and that's the wonderful thing about the Giro is the terrain. It's constantly changing. It's really demanding. It's tough for the riders. The course that they present for the riders, some might say it's tougher than the Tour de France, and I think it's certainly in terms of the visual impact, I think would venture to suggest it's a more beautiful race than Tour de France. And there is perhaps a slightly more relaxed atmosphere as well for all the teams. Not too relaxed amongst the Astanas at the moment. as Vincenzo Nibali puts his squad on the front. And Nibali has been asked the question, you know, would you consider giving up the jersey? You know, letting a group go up the road that includes another one of the general classification contenders that might be able to take over the jersey, but that who you would feel confident of getting past in the later mountain stages. There's plenty of mountains from now till the end of the race, and it is a long, long time for this one team to control it. And the point was made that 2 days ago we had a medium mountain stage, by no means as demanding as the stage we've got today, or as demanding as the stages we've got in the at the end of this week in the Alps and at the end of the last week in the Dolomites. So you know, you really do wonder whether the Astana team might be considering the possibility of giving up the jersey. At the moment it looks as if they're happy and content to sit at the front. Vincenzo Nibali left with just one of his riders at the conclusion of it the other day. Okay, little bit of a windy, twisty route for the riders. Join us for the next part of this stage after this short break. You're very welcome back to stage 10 of Giro d'Italia. Cordonons to Altopiano del Montasio, 167 kilometres in total. We've just got a little bit less than 62 kilometres of those to go. Kenny de Haas feeling the pinch a little bit on this first of two classified climbs on today's stage. Casson de Lanza is a first category hill. Kenny de Haas is a sprinter, so he doesn't really enjoy this kind of gradient. De Haas currently, well, he's 194th, over an hour and 3/4 behind Vincenzo Nibali. And starting to lose out, and bearing in mind that they've got about 12 kilometres to go to the top of the hill. And here come the Sky Train. So this is perhaps what we might have expected, and bearing in mind what was suggested a little bit earlier on Twitter. Quick reminder, you can get in touch at DQ Sport. So the Breakaway pushing on with a decent advantage. At the front of the race, we still have, from the original 14 men out front, 13 again arrived at the bottom of this hill, and now we have a select group. Kenny de Haas has just got shelled out of this one. Got a couple of Radio Shacks in there. Tiago Machado and Jaroslav Popovic going well. Viviani's in there for Cannondale. Daniele Banati, but it's very interesting to see that as the advantage for the lead group out front shrinks by almost a minute and a half in just a few kilometres, it's the Sky team that have gone to the front to set the pace. This is an interesting tactical development, Sean.
Yes, well, it's a tactical development, and it's surprising to see them taking it up early, because Astana were riding a very good pace, and Sky are taking over now on the climb. And as you say, you know, 12 kilometres to the top, it's a long ways, and we're going to see damage from this, and I think there'll be damage everywhere. We can see in the breakaway as well, you know, Benatti is in difficulty, Lichtard was in difficulty, Kenny de Haas starting to lose contact from the breakaway, as we see Popovic just setting the pace here, and you know, those riders losing contact. It will be exactly the same in the peloton, because with Sky it looks like they're setting a real fast pace at the moment.
Just at the back of the breakaway, which is dwindling with every passing moment, Pavel Brut of the Katusha squad hanging on grimly. And is David Miller still in there? I do believe he is. Thomas Dekker certainly is for the Garmin team. It's Popovic. Once upon a time suggested that he might well have a future as a Grand Tour contender himself. Didn't quite work out for him in that way, but Jaroslav Popovic is still good solid pro, earning his crust with Radio Shack and doing a great job at the moment.
Paulini losing contact here. The Mayo Rosa for about 3 days, and the stage win in this race had a, you know, a magnificent first week, but again by getting into the train where he's not going to be able to, you know, be anywhere near the favourites in the end of this one, and we can see the tail end of the bunch riders, you know, losing contact, groups 5 and 10 riders everywhere on this climb already. And as you said, you know, it's still over 10 kilometres to go on this one.
Well, Paolini's had a great Giro, as you say, all those days in the Maglia Rosa, and it's been a great stage race so far for the Katusha squad. They've won 2 stages.
And we can see Fabio Aru there from The team of the race leader, of course, Astana, suffering, and we can see Stegman's Mark Cavendish. So it's the buses form already. That group are just getting together, and it's surprising to see him back there because you know, he's an important man for the race leader late in the day.
Well, the expectation was that Fabio Aru would be contending for honours in the young rider classification. He led it for several days, and one of the leading domestics, as you say, for Vincenzo Nibali. And that is a worry for Nibali as the Sky team go to the front, set the agenda. And I was just, we were just talking about it a little bit before the break. There have been suggestions that Nibali seemed a little isolated. Okay, Astana have been on the front for most of the day setting the pace, so it's no surprise that some of their riders were feeling it a little bit. But just one rider with Vincenzo Nibali in the group at the conclusion of the stage a couple of days ago. And is this a concern? Is this something that he should be worried about? Certainly seeing Fabio Aru going out the back so early in the stage will be a worry for him.
Yes, I think he would like to have riders, you know, much further into the end of the stage with him. And when you see the position we're in at the moment with Aru losing contact very early, it's not a good situation. And of course, you know, it's probably the reason for Sky to take up the pace is they see that they're after been riding for a long time, and just to put the Astana team under pressure, see how strong they are. If you allow them to dominate the front of the bunch, they will just slow down that little bit, and they will ride at a pace where they can keep a lot of the riders, keep maybe 3-4 riders at least with Nibali, and just make the climb like that, because at the moment the advantage out of the breakaway just over 7 minutes, there's no concern in that. And you know, they try just to take control of the race, but Sky are not allowing it, just taking it up very early on this climb.
Early in the stage, late in terms of kilometres, of course 107 kilometres already completed, but early in terms of the big movements that are going to be made and the big efforts that have to be required from their legs. Meanwhile, on the front, Jackson Rodriguez of the Androni team. And Rodriguez, one of two Venezuelans who started the race. Rodriguez will currently 74th, 38 minutes and 55 seconds down, as all the riders in the break are not really a contender overall. Pipo Pozzato not enjoying things much at the moment. Looks like he's going south. There's an awful lot of racing to do yet if you're going to get dropped at this point. If the bus gets set this early in the hill, well, they've got a long day out there. Bradley Wiggins looking very composed and controlled. Just a sight of Cadel Evans. You can see his crouching style. He's in the points leaders jersey, remember, and we spotted at the first intermediate sprint that Elia Viviani had taken it up. My first thought was that he was doing it to try and protect Cameron Worth's position in the intermediate sprints competition by edging out Pim Ligtart, but there was perhaps a more personal reason for him to go for that sprint, Sean.
Yes, well, the points classification, he's very much up there. He's in third position behind Evans and Cavendish, and he is, you know, at 52 points to Cadel Evans 61, and in that intermediate sprint, of course, he gets 8 points, so he's up to the 60. He's very close, but you know, it doesn't look like he's going to be able to hold on out in the breakaway and maybe go on to the next intermediate sprint. But it's a long ways to that, and it's a very difficult one again because it's on the final climb of the day and a long ways up that final climb. It's only a number of kilometres from the finish, so it doesn't look like that he can improve any bit by taking some more points for the points classification, but still it puts him very much back up there in the points classification overall.
Yeah, he's certainly scrapping with Mark Cavendish for second position in it, but Cadel Evans, as you see, in that red jersey, not too dissimilar really to the BMC colours he normally wears. As Vincenzo Nibali in the Maglia Rosa, and the blue shorts of Astana is paced by his teammates, but up ahead of them it's the Sky squad in unison. 6 of them in total, looking very comfortable indeed, but causing all sorts of discomfort. And there's the man who won the stage 2 days ago, stage 9, Maxim Belkov, toiling his way up this hill. Belkovic, it was his first win in a road race as a professional. He won 3 time trials. Had a long breakaway in the Tour Turkey a couple of years ago, which came to naught. So I think it was an important moment for him that he was able to finally close one out. What a great stage to do it. In the Giro d'Italia, his finest win. And it's been a great Giro, as I said, for Katusha, and a good Giro too for solo breakaways, because that was the second in succession to succeed and make it all the way to the line. Bobovic doing a solid job. Machado is benefiting from it. He's sitting on the wheel of Thomas Dekker. Dekker in the blue jersey of Garmin Sharp. And this the Magliarosa group working its way through the trees. Talking about weather, it's gorgeous weather today. Lots. The weather forecast for the next week is changeable, mixed rain, and that will not be good news for Bradley Wiggins. Perhaps the only consolation is that the weather forecast wasn't too accurate for the first week. They were predicting lots of sunshine and he got lots of rain, so he'll hope that they're just as wrong this coming week. Okay, the leaders up front still controlling a decent advantage, but the Sky Train is coming. You're very welcome back to stage 10 of Giro d'Italia. Cordonons to Altopiano del Montasio. They're on the first classified climb of 2. It's the first category ascent of Passon Casson de Lanza, and you just get a replay of the race leader Vincenzo Nibali pulling into the side because he would appear to have suffered a puncture. And this is a little bit of a worrying moment for Nibali, because the Sky Riders are on the front, driving hard. They'll be made aware of the fact that the race leader has. Oh, it's just a chain drop. Yes, it's not a puncture, so I suppose that'll be some relief for him. But obviously, some little niggling mechanical issue. Shouldn't be able to, or shouldn't be too long before he's able to get going again. And no sign of Sky backing off and making it easy for him to get back in there, should they, or should they just maintain this constant pressure, Sean?
Well, I think they've been at it for a number of kilometres on the front, you know, setting this strong pace, and that's the mechanical problems in the race. You unlucky that for Nibali he gets at the wrong time, but Sky are just going to continue making this very fast train, and we have seen there some of the shots. The peloton has really, you know, got small. The front end of the peloton, there's just riders losing contact all the time, and they're going to continue. There's no need, you know, to start to knock down at this stage, because they have been doing it for at least 3-4 kilometres beforehand.
There's the front of the race. There were a total of 14 riders out front, and that is being whittled down with every passing kilometre. 13 riders went to the base of this climb, and now it looks as if Jackson Rodriguez of Androni Giocattoli has struck out for glory and established an advantage over the group, being led by Serge Poles of Amiga Pharma Quickstep. Meanwhile, the Magliarosa group winds its way through the trees. And we're back on the ascent for the leaders. They're back into the toughest part of this climb. And this is the 12.5% average for the next few kilometres. And then this is the section of the climb that has attracted plenty of spectators with good reason. Meanwhile, Sky Squad, lower slopes, not quite as demanding here. Higher tempo being set. And of course the gap is coming down. They're going quite a bit quicker. 4.5 minutes now. And it was as much as, well, indeed, a little bit more than 8 minutes at one stage.
It's amazing it's come down so quickly. It was, you know, a number of minutes up on that few kilometres earlier, and it just drops down to over 4.5 minutes real quickly, and that tells how fast the peloton is going, because they ain't hanging around here in the breakaway. As you can see here, they're pushing on, and Jackson Rodriguez want to push on here. He knows that, you know, now is the time to go, because you make this climb and then you have the descent afterwards all the way down into the valley, and then the final climb of the day. But it's not looking good for the breakaway, with the peloton taking it up real early, and that is you know, the calculation You'd be expecting the peloton just to keep on riding at a pace and hold them at 7-8 minutes, and then when you get to the final climb of the day, in the last 25-30 kilometres, you could have a chance out of the breakaway. But it looks like the way the gap is coming down and the way Sky are piling on the pressure at the moment, it's melting down real quickly.
Yeah, big worries for the break up front, worries too for Astana. Nibali becoming more and more isolated. And like one or two people saying that Astana didn't wait for Wiggins the other day when he had difficulty, so why should Sky wait for him when he has his little problem? Ryder Hagedal at the back of the group, has he hit problems once more? Is it another day where his legs are feeling blocked and sore? And he did say that it might have been as a result of the efforts he'd made in the time trial the day before, and that's the problem that he faced towards the end of Sunday's stage. Lost over a minute on that occasion. Jonathan Vaughters has suggested that it's going to be very difficult for the overall for him now. Perhaps he was just kidding and trying to take a little bit of pressure off Ryder Hagedal, but that's not really the place that Hagedal wants to be, is it, Sean?
No, and he does look comfortable. He's down on the drops there, you know, very much down there, and at this point you can see a lot of the riders here. If you look at the Sky riders, most of them are riding on the hoods on the top of the bars, and normally that's where you do it, although they are on a bit of a section where it's going that bit faster here, and but Hagedal certainly not in the place where you'd like to be, on the very tail end of that group of big favourites. And it is, you know, it's a long one. If you were feeling comfortable, you would sit up there in the top 10 or 15 guys and just leave the race roll on, but he doesn't look comfortable at this moment.
Vincenzo Nibali is back in as Jackson Rodriguez presses on. Androli Giocattoli, Venezuela, and he's part of the Venezuelan element of that team now, 28 years of age. Won the Tour of Mexico in 2009, third in Langkawi on that occasion, and this is his fifth journey to Giro d'Italia. So a hardened pro. He's been around, he's done quite a bit. Got fourth on a stage of Tour Langkawi this year, so it's a race that he likes to go to. Hasn't come up with any other big results of note so far this year, so this is his opportunity to shine, and he's given himself a racer's chance of at least leading over the top of this climb. Whether he can hang on to the finish remains to be seen, and teammates of his, Franco Pelazzotti as well, also attempting to break clear. And Sky just watch to see. Not too concerned about that. And it's Franco Pelazzotti second in line here. So Androni's at the front of the break and also at the front of the bunch. They obviously have a plan. Gianni Savio has thought of something. Diego Rosa it is that's pacing Franco Pelazzotti in the Italian national champions jersey. Both of these riders from Androni Giocattoli, and have established a narrow advantage over the peloton. Now see can they settle into a rhythm that will allow them to take them clear. Interesting tactical decisions from Androni.
Yes, it is interesting here, because with the peloton going at a very fast pace, being pushed on by Sky, you know, you would expect some of the riders, maybe with the plan this morning, to try and go on the attack on this one if the peloton was going at a more casual pace, but that's not the position we're in at the moment. They're really pushing on here, and with a man out front as well in the breakaway, Jackson Rodriguez, I thought they might just leave it happen and allow the Sky to make this very strong pace for the moment, and see what happened after this climb and wait for the final climb of the day. But you know, they're prepared to really just go for it here with two men out in the attack very early on in the stage, really, when you consider, you know, the way the race is going at the moment.
Well, that's one of the great things about Giro d'Italia. It's unpredictable. It gives us they tend to shake things up a little bit in this race, and it's always entertaining for that fact. That's a hell of a... It's a much smaller group, and a couple of the Colombian riders that you might have expected to be up front are struggling to make it across to this group. So groups dotted all over the road, and that's a big group of strong riders. Tom Danielson is in there. You might have expected him, and Ryder Hagedal is also included in this group. Ryder Hejidal is in big trouble again. You see him there, and his teammates are at the front of the group trying to close it up. The Astana team of Giuseppe Martinelli, the team manager, though, in control at the moment. I think the most dangerous will be Cadel Evans. Maybe the only problem for him is his team. Perhaps it's not strong enough. But he can race doing it all by himself. Because sometimes playing for the team is not the best reward. But for me, him and Scarponi will be the most dangerous for Nibali in the next days. Of course, we will do our best during the various stages. Okay, so Giuseppe Martinelli believes that Cadel Evans is the big threat. Meanwhile, David Miller has dropped out of the break, is dropping back. Is this merely because he couldn't follow the pace, or because he's been made aware of the difficulties being encountered by Ryder Hejidal? Probably a little bit of both.
I think it's more of the first one. Difficulty.
One likes to give him the benefit of the doubt.
Well, I don't think, when you look at the composition of the breakaway, I was saying it's not the day for Miller to be in the break, and we can see there, you know, he's at the losing contact very early, because he's lost 7.5 minutes already on this climb, and you know, we can see the peloton there, the leading, what's left of the peloton, let's call it. They're going to swarm up any moment, but not a good day for Miller. And I think he was thinking as well, if I hang on to this one, you know, what if it again the next one anyway, I'm going to get blown out there, so decides just to ride to the climb and then make his own pace on the climb.
Well, there can't be much more than 20 riders there, maybe 25 at a push, and 6 of them are Sky team, so it's looking very, very strong indeed for the Sky squad. They have the strength in numbers, they have the ability going up a hill, and this race is not done by any means. Bradley Wiggins sitting handily in 4th position overall. And remember, he's just 1 minute and 16 seconds down on Vincenzo Nibali, so right in contention, and putting it up to the race leader at the moment. It's brewing up nicely in stage 10 of Giro d'Italia. Stage 10 of Giro d'Italia, and Pim Ligtart, who was in the break early on, is just about to be passed by Franco Pelazzotti of Androni Giocattoli, who has struck out for glory from the Maglia Rosa group, and is leaving behind his teammate Diego Rosa. Meanwhile, Ryder Hejidal is clawing his way back up to this group, paced and cajoled by Thomas Danielson. But this is another difficult moment for Ryder Hejidal. Lost over a minute to the general classification group 2 days ago. And now it looks as if his dreams of Giro glory for 2013 are going up in smoke. The Casson de Lanza is not a hill that he will want to remember. Certainly he won't be remembering it with any fondness. Big difficulties for Ryder Hejidal, so active in the first few days. He was attacking, well, he attacked on the first long road stage, first medium hilly stage, and well, you thought that he was absolutely on fire. Fantastic form. He was absolutely flying in Liège-Bastogne-Liège a couple of weeks before the Giro, so it looked as if he had arrived in with great legs indeed, but now really struggling. At crisis moments for Ryder Hejidal. Meanwhile, up front, Jackson Rodriguez of the Androni squad is tapping out a steady rhythm. Now maintaining his position up front. But how long before Franco Pelazzotti and Diego Rosa managed to get on terms? Well, 3:30 is the gap to Pelazzotti from his teammate up front. So still a ways to go, and remember the top of this climb comes just under 50 kilometers to go, so they've got about 3.2 kilometers to the top of this hill. And as you
Radio Shack.
Yeah, I thought it...
Diego Machado.
Yeah, I'm expecting it to be Machado. I'm not sure, I didn't see a 7 there on that, in which case it was just, it's Popovic. Popovic setting a searing pace at the bottom of this hill, and shelled out a lot of riders from the break. Serge Poles as well has been going well for Amiga Pharma Quick-Step. He's 3rd in the group, and the Oscar Gatto of Vinny Fantini is there with him. And one of the Radio Shack, one of the 2 Radio Shack riders that were in the group is chasing down Jackson Rodriguez at the front. heading into the snow alongside, and this will be dragging the temperature down. 18 degrees centigrade in the valley. Very pleasant indeed, but it'll be quite a bit less than that now, and well, they're going uphill, so that cooling effect probably won't disappoint them too much. When they go over the other side, though, they'll be looking for their gloves and their jackets, you can be sure of that. And Franco Pellizotti, who's been in the news a lot for some of the wrong reasons in the last couple of years, has got his career back on an even keel with Androni Giocattoli. Surprised everyone with his Italian Road Race Championship win last year, and he's wearing those colours with pride. And this Giro d'Italia has been a fascinating one already, and a great course has been presented to us by the race director Michele Acquironi.
Guarda, sono felicissimo.
I'm really happy, he says, because we started with a big and sunny day in Naples, and then day after day we had a lot of surprises and deep interest from the public in Italy as well as around the world. It's better than we could have asked for, also because the top cyclists are doing a great Giro. Until now we made just 1/3 of the race, and I think overall that the last week of the Giro will be amazing. This was just a starter, the best is still to come. And it has been a fascinating Giro, no doubt about it. And Acquironi's accession to the role of race director has been well, universally welcomed by fans and riders and team directors alike. As riders winch themselves up this hill. There's the classification leader of the Vacansoleil team, Raphael Vels-Ferry, struggling a little bit, 18th overall, as we see for the Saxo Bank Tinkoff squad. Evgeny Petrov at the back of the group and going south. Well, Samuel Sanchez looked like he's struggling there as well. We got a tweet a little while ago suggesting he was going on the attack, could well be going for stage honours, but not if he can't hang on with this group. And Sky looks so comfortable and composed. Dario Cataldo's moved over and handed it over to Siutsu to set the pace. His distinctive mouth open style, but absolutely rock solid in the saddle. The only movement really is his legs up and down and the pedals going round and round. Well, they all look to be setting a pace that they're able to handle, as Kenny de Haas from the break is closed down. And Zandio is struggling. So Sky have lost a rider, but still they're by some considerable margin the best represented team in the group of leaders.
Not surprising, Zandio is starting to lose contact, because he was setting the pace there for at least 4 kilometres plus, and he was setting a real strong one. He's done so much damage here. He's put so many riders out the rear door, and we can see here in the leading group we have got, what, 25, maximum 30 riders here. So you know, he has really got a strong pace going there, and has blown the peloton to pieces.
So Sky very much in control. Vincenzo Nibali is accompanied by Tanel Kangert. So he's got a couple of riders assisting him. He's got 2 teammates, as Kenny de Haas doesn't spend too long with the lead with the group of favourites, and he'll drop back to pick up the bus. Yuri Trofimov of Katusha out of the saddle, back in, feeling the pinch a little bit. Best place of their riders, 21st overall at 5 minutes and 17 seconds up front. Jackson Rodriguez ploughing on, and no sign of Machado behind him, so, well, there he is. And it's about the same gap, and you wonder, would Rodriguez be better advised hanging on and waiting for him, or will he just, they'll meet up a little bit later on? Betancourt for AG2R. Calls for his team car. Still in the group of favourites, still climbing well, and feeling a lot more confident, I would suggest, after his stage a couple of days ago, where he left the GC group and raced and caught all but Maxim Belkov up front. He thought he'd won the stage, but nonetheless he'll be delighted with his performance, not least because of his descending ability and his ability to hold them off on the flats. Obviously he's got good all-round condition. His climbing is not at issue. Well, Machado at the same gap. I suppose Rodriguez wants to hang on for the top points at the top and to lead them over the hill, but then he could perhaps save a little bit of energy at the top by waiting for Machado. And these two riders will form a formidable combination if they have a similar advantage heading to the final hill, but I would remind you it's 22 kilometers of climbing. 11 of those, you might say, are serious climbing, as if it wasn't all serious. Franco Pelazzotti, slightly handier gradient at this point on the hill, but now climbing alone and looking very relaxed. Former mountains classification winner in the Tour de France, of course.
Benatti being swallowed up by the main peloton here. Another man was in the breakaway, and he's just having a look to see who's in this group. We can see as everybody go by, he's just looking to his left there and checking out to see where if you've got a teammate in there, but it doesn't look like that for the moment. An interesting one here with this group, leading group, Heino, I do not see there at the moment, and it's looking that he's a bit further back in the group if he's in there at all.
Jackson Rodriguez out front on stage 10 of Giro d'Italia. We'll see how he gets on. We're on the first of two classified climbs on the stage 10 of Giro d'Italia 2013, with the race leaders racing across the top. That's the third man over the top, Serge Pauls of the Amiga Pharma Quick-Step squad, just heading Oscar Gatto, and behind Jackson Rodriguez, who's led the field across. And this is the race leader, Jackson Rodriguez, sweeping down the mountain towards the second climb of the day and the summit finish, the first of the race, to Altopiano del Montasio. As behind various riders from the break, which at one stage had 8 minutes advantage. Well, that's been whittled down to virtually nothing, well, within a couple of minutes. 4 minutes back to the Maglia Rosa from Jackson Rodriguez across the top. And the man who's left that Maglia Rosa group and struck out on his own is Franco Pelazzotti of the Androni Giocattoli squad. There is Elia Viviani and Thomas Decker for company as they get their jackets on nice and early ahead of this descent. Still sign of snow in the trees, which will give you an indication of how much cooler it is on this climb than it was in the valley. A little bit of an issue there for Francis Moret of Française de Jeu. Climbing well, 15 minutes down overall, but still in the lead group as Betancourt calls for his car. That's not the first time he's called. He's starting to show a little bit of frustration there.
Yes, and maybe he's looking for a rain jacket, or a gilet, but it's not the place he's going to get one, because with the riders all over the climb here, the cars are definitely not going to be allowed up to him at this point, and you know, you've got to have something in your pocket if you haven't a team help at the top of the climb to give you something for the descent, and it looks like that's what he's looking for at the moment.
Well, Sky give it up to Astana, who take over as the lead group heads towards the top of the climb. Sky set the tempo all the way up. They'll take a little bit of a breather on the descent, and I suppose Bradley Wiggins will try and stay as far to the fore as possible, as Vincenzo Nibali looks perhaps to set a tempo that will make his big rival a little bit uncomfortable. So now Gatto and Pauls chasing Rodriguez. Machado as well is in front of them, in between Rodriguez and those two. And this is the race leader. Machado hasn't been, Rodriguez, he hasn't been joined yet by Machado, which you might have expected by this point. Could probably do with the company, certainly for the Valley. Well, Gareth Rees wanted to know, do you think Sky are playing their cards too early, considering there's still a major climb to go?
Well, that's something you never know as a team, as a rider out there, as a director sportif. You have to try the tactic, and you make a plan of action before the race, and during the race that can change, and you decide to take a tactic on board and go with it. And there's no guarantee in biking that the guys are feeling really good in the morning time. They can feel good on this climb leading into it, but as the race go on, you can start running out of energy very quickly. So you just never know. But you make a tactic and you see what the other teams are doing, and sometimes you base your tactic on that. And I think the Sky team, they did a good job there. They started up in the pace a bit and seemed to eliminate a lot of the Astana domestiques for Nibali, but it's turned around a bit now. And the interesting one is, as I said a moment ago, Henyo from Sky, I'm not sure if he's there. I'd be surprised if he's not, but maybe that's the reason Astana are pushing on, because he is very much up in the general classification at 2:11 in 6th place in the general classification. So that is going to be the problem for Nibali from the Astana team, that there's a lot of Sky riders, and when you get to the final climb of the day, there's 3 men who are a danger for the general classification all the time within Sky.
A few wet patches on this descent which will grab the attention of the riders as they wend their way down the hill. Peter Kerman wants to know, do you think the favourites are overlooking Hessink? He hit form this time last year at Tour of California. He certainly did. Hessink, flatter to deceive on so many Grand Tours to this point in his career, but still many people believe that he has a great opportunity. And don't forget, of course, the Tour of California is on at the moment, and you can pick up live coverage of stage 3 of the race this evening on Eurosport. Rob Hatch and Brian Smith will take you through the action, and it's been a race of marked contrast in terms of weather conditions to what we've had on the Giro d'Italia so far. They've had blazing heat affecting the riders. It's about rain and suffering for the riders in Giro d'Italia. Let's hear from Baldato, the BMC Racing Sports Director. For sure the team is here and Cadell is fit. He says we want to be part of the fight. Nobody needs to underestimate Bradley Wiggins. He has had some problems with the slopes and when it rains, but he's doing well. And yes, of course, also Cadell is in between the best. We're there, and also today we proved it for sure. And for him it looks a bit like Nibali during the slopes. They are more or less at the same level, but it will be the climbs that make the difference, says Fabio Baldato, sports director of Cadell Evans BMC squad. And he's got to be very content with how Evans has gone so far in this race. As I said at the top of the show, his best showing in a Grand Tour since his victory in the Tour de France 2 years ago. Technical descent, that will suit Vincenzo Nibali, but the Sky team are right with him. What about Robert Hessink? Have we overlooked him? Have we ignored him? At the moment he's sitting in 3rd position. He's 1 second ahead of Bradley Wiggins. He's within 1 minute and 15 seconds of Vincenzo Nibali. Is this his time?
Well, I think he's in a really good position to put up a big fight in this race. We've just seen him there a moment ago. He's on the end of that group coming down of big favourites, and the problem is for guessing, I think, in the big mountains, consistency is always his problem, and I would think we will see it once again in this race, unless, as our viewer said, this time last year he got into real good shape, won the Tour of California, but this ain't the Tour of California, I'm afraid. This Giro, 3 weeks long, but you never know. Sometimes they get a real good moment of form, and if he gets that, possibly could do something. I think the good point we can take from the race here is guessing he hasn't lost anything major in the first week, because he doesn't like the fighting and the pushing in the first week of the race. The crashes, he gets tangled up in him a few times. We did see he crashed one day with Scarponi, but just lost minimum time, only in a handful of seconds. So he's definitely in there in a good place, and it's now time to prove, really, because he has to get on the podium at least in a big tour, because he's knocking at the door there for a number of years.
Yeah, I mean, there's been talk about his ability on the descents and the problems that he's hit in the past, and crashing on descents, and that they don't really suit him, but he's managed to get through it all not too bad the first week, bearing in mind pretty much everyone has been down at least once. I'm sure that's not true, but so many of the leading contenders have been on the floor. Okay, he's been off the bike at one stage, but Hessing seems to be getting through the descents okay. He's got through the difficult first week. Now can he step it up and move on as it gets into the serious part of this race? David Wright says, with no real drafting advantage, why does following it a wheel or a team member when climbing make such a difference? Is it purely psychological?
Well, depend on the climb, first of all. If you're climbing and there's a headwind, of course, in the wheel, there's a big advantage there because you're in the drafting, and if you're a bit further back, there's 6 or 10 riders in front of you, the drafting effect is much greater. But when you're going on a real steep climb, when the pace is naturally very slow, well, then the drafting doesn't have really any effect. It's a psychological thing, and if somebody is making the pace and you can stay in the wheel and the pace is just about what you can manage, it does mean a lot. And that's why we see some of the big favourites, when they're in difficulty on the climbs, the domestiques, they come back and they try and just stay with him and get him into a rhythm, get settled into a rhythm that he's just about able to manage and limit your losses. So it is a big psychological thing if you have the right guy setting the pace. But of course, if there's a guy pushing on too much, well, then you cannot follow, and you just have to make the calculation what you can afford to spend on a climb. If you go too deep, well, then you blow and you really start to struggle. And depending on how far you're from the summit as well, if you're on the final kilometre, you can do that. But if you're 5-6 kilometres from the summit and you really go over the top and go into the red, as they say in bike terms, well, you blow totally, and that's where you can really explode.
Benjatin Schausti, former Maglia Rosa of this race, wore it for one day during the time trial on Saturday, and not really enjoying the pace on this technical descent that has been set by the Astana team. Just missed his apex at the last corner, but managed to freewheel his way back into the slipstream without too much difficulty. But they're herring down this descent towards the final climb. We're inside the final 25 miles of stage 10 of Giro d'Italia as the field races from Cordenons to Altopiano del Montasio. This is the man who's leading out front. Jackson Rodriguez of the Androni Giocattoli Venezuela squad has 3.5 minutes advantage over the group of the race leader in screen on shot there. In the middle is Vincenzo Nibali in his Maglia Rosa and his sky blue Astana shorts. And the Astana team is leading the group in one long crocodile down this technical descent as Rodriguez heads towards the final climb of Altopiano del Montasio. 22 kilometers of climbing for him. And riders from the Sky squad getting back on. This is not Bradley Wiggins. And I think that could well be Samuel Sanchez chasing on. 3.5 minutes from Vincenzo Nibali in the Maglia Rosa to the front of the race. Jackson Rodriguez leading for Androni Giocattoli, and there's Samuel Sanchez, one of the best descenders in the business, just working his way back into the group, but he'll be a little bit concerned that he was left behind on that first climb of the day to Casson di Lanza. And it's Sergio Henao that was left behind on the climb, and also is having to work his way back in. So that's a little bit of a concern and a big surprise, John.
Yes, it is a surprise, and I was looking at the number of riders from Sky on the front, and I could not see Heino, but he was a little bit further back there, making it into this group here, and that is a surprise. Sammy Sanchez, of course, is not surprising because he can be at a minute and a half at the top of the climb. He's such a great descender, he can just pull back so much time on the descent. But yes, Heino, that is a surprising one, and that is maybe the reason that we see Astana pushing on, because he is, you know, very much a danger man in the general classification, and to make it difficult.
Oh, problem for Pelazzotti. Pelazzotti has dropped it. He's back on his bike without any difficulty, so no harm done for the Italian national road race champion. But Franco Pelazzotti making a mistake. This is a technical descent, and I tell you what, those fence posts and indeed the wire in between them on the left-hand side could do an awful lot of damage. But it looks as if Pelazzotti has got away with it. But that just shows he was really pushing hard out front. He's in front of the Maglia Rosa group. He attacked out of that group with a few kilometres to go to the top of the Pass on Casson de Lanza. And what will that do to Pelazzotti's motivation, and where is he now in relation to the Astana-led group of Vincenzo Nibali? Samuel Sanchez in the cars, not too much further ahead of him. You've got Sergio Henao, and as Sean says, surprised to see him out the back of the group, sitting 6th overall. 2 minutes and 11 seconds down on Vincenzo Nibali, taking his time to get back in there. 3 minutes 41 seconds now, so Rodriguez going well and hitting more open roads on the towards the bottom of the descent. He might have been able to open up a little bit of an advantage. Of course, he's ploughing on. He's ploughing on solo, so he's decided not to wait for Thiago Machado behind him, or indeed for Serge Pauwels and Gatto a little bit further back, so which perhaps would have formed a formidable group. He's gone for it solo. Is that the right tactic, Sean?
Well, I think you know, the positions in the moment all downhill, so it's not any advantage having somebody with you. You can make the descent and you know, do the descent on your own where you feel comfortable. And he's doing very well because the gap had come down a bit less than it is at the moment, and he's pulling out again. And of course, back here in this group of favourites, Astana have been pushing on, and they haven't really eaten into Jackson Rodriguez's time advantage. It's really grown out in the last bit, but now we're getting to a pace, the section of the route where it's going to get more open road, and that's where it's going to be difficult for him. As we can see here, you know, it's a bigger road now, it levels out for a while, and this is going to be, you know, the energy sapping part to get onto the final climb of the day. Yeah,
Rodriguez found himself in the wrong gear there, didn't he? Is he having trouble changing, or he just decided to leave it on the big gears? He just ground his way over that very, very short little drag. And he's having a little bit of a chat, getting some advice from Gianni Savio back in the Androni team car. He's not sure what he should be doing. He has 240 over Pelazzotti. So where are Machado and Machado was solo over the top. Pauwels and Gatto. Cialinghi, yeah, Martin Cialinghi of the Blanco squad.
And I think we could see there that Pauwels and Gatto are maybe just a little bit ahead of Pelazzotti there. We see some riders going by, and I reckon that could be the two that went by. So Pelazzotti is not actually the man directly behind our leader out on the road, Jackson Rodriguez, but we'll have to wait for confirmation on that.
3:45 to the Maglia Rosa group. They're less concerned with the riders out front. None of them are really a big problem for him. Up front, Rodriguez is pushing hard. We got a good shot there. He's on the small ring and right down at the bottom of the block, and calling for his team car. I wonder if he is in some sort of gear difficulty. We just saw that little a little bit earlier, just as he went through that town. We saw that he went over that little drag, and he just seemed to be caught in the wrong gear. So it could well be that his rear mech isn't working, and he's only really got 2 gears on the bike, the big ring and the small ring.
Yes, it's surprising to see him in the small ring and the small one, the rear. That's not what you normally do. You'd be on the, you know, the bigger ring and in the middle of the block, the chain drive, you know, a bit more straight. And it looks like that he has some problem there. And we see him with the neutral service car. He's called it up there. I think we might see the team car coming up quite quickly, but again,
such a narrow descent, it's going to be, you know.
Yes, and they were stopped before the descent, of course. The team cars we could see behind the brake, they were pulled in a bit, but maybe they're not that far off now as the groups are pulled out, so we could, hopefully we will get the car if that's what it needs, and it looks the case.
Yeah, pity for Jackson Rodriguez up front, bit of a mechanical issue for him as Thomas Dekker pushes on, and riders calling for their car. Carlos Betancourt at the back of the group for AG2R, just ahead of Amiris Kopecky of the Movistar squad, and Vinny Fantini's Sant'Ambrogio just rolls past. That's about the third time that we've seen Betancourt calling for his team car in the last 10 kilometres. Valerio Agnoli on bottle duty for Vincenzo Nibali. Still 2:23 back to Pelazzotti, so Pelazzotti's got going again with some facility and some impressive pace. Agnoli just gets set to collect a gel or two.
Sitsuf.
Yeah, surprised to see Sitsuf's just gone back to the car, hasn't he? Konstantin Sitsu of the Sky team takes his turn as he waits for Agnoli to finish getting service from the Astana team car. So this group has swelled a little bit on the descent, not too much. Still about 20 riders up there, and Vincenzo Nibali surveys the scene, looks over his shoulder to see what's involved, and Betancourt still looking for a little bit of help and encouragement from his team car. Pozzovivo's in there for AG2R as well. Niemitz of the Lampre squad winding his way through that group as well. He's been a bit of a revelation, actually. Niemitz, Przemysław Niemitz of Poland, and Lampre in just his, I think it's his third Giro d'Italia. First Grand Tour was just a couple of years ago, and he's now 33 years of age. Lampre Merida to give them their full title. So now the gap has gone out to 4 minutes and 5 seconds as the general classifications contenders take on food and water and think about the challenge to come. Less concerned with what's going on ahead of them. Those riders are not a threat on general classification, and you can be sure that that gap will shrink very, very quickly indeed when these guys get racing again. Uran is in there comfortably. His fellow countryman and Sky teammate Eno, though, has been struggling a little bit so far today.
It's the calm before the storm. I think it'll be interesting to see on this final climb as we go around what 30 kilometers to go. If they continue on like this for a while, you know, we could see a lot more riders getting back into this leading group. And of course, the big loser here is the defending champion Ryder Hagedal. He has, you know, lost a lot of ground here, but we could see him, you know, recovering on the climb. He was getting into a rhythm a bit more. We could see him with Tom Danielson, and maybe he didn't lose as much as he was looking like he could lose in the earlier part of the climb. It'll be interesting to see if he can make it back in here. But again, when you're on a bad day, it's rare they recover and, you know, be able to make this real difficult climb. If it was only a smaller climb at the finish and you do get back in, you could maybe just about hang on. But this real difficult one, a long climb, I think is going to be difficult if he ever does get back into the main group of favourites.
There is the main group of favourites inside the final 30 kilometres, just outside the final 30 kilometres for the race leader Jackson Rodriguez up front on this stage 10 of Giro d'Italia. We're racing in the Friuli region in the far northeastern corner of Italy. It's a region with a very distinct and separate cultural identity, separate language, and it's got a special status amongst Italian regions, one of 5 regions with this special status. We're racing in the Carnic Alps, the southern limestone Alps in the northeastern corner of Italy. Pelozzotti has been joined, Rodriguez is up front. Join us for the next part after these. Stage 10 of Giro d'Italia 2013. We're racing to the summit, the first summit finish of the race. Altopiano del Montasio is the destination for Jackson Rodriguez of the Androni Giocattoli Venezuela squad, who's feeling the pain out front. And he's not the only one. Four minutes the advantage to Vincenzo Nibali for Jackson Rodriguez. And riders all over the place, grimacing at the efforts that they're being asked to make as Pelozzotti drives the group chasing Rodriguez. Pavel Brut of Katusha and Machado. So there's 3 riders in there. There were a couple of others with them a little while ago. Are there a couple ahead of Pelozzotti? Franco Pelozzotti chasing his teammate. How does that work?
Well, I think he feels that the riders are on board with him, that they're not maybe that good in the final climb, and he feels that he can ride on, but it is a surprising one to see him.
He should be the one sitting on, and the other 2 guys chasing.
Yes, he should be the one that's getting carried along, but I think with the advantages we see, 3:46 at the moment, the other riders are saying, well, there's no way we're going to ride across that gap, and they don't seem to be too interested in pushing on here.
So it's the Sky team that have gone to the front of the group to set the agenda once more. Oscar Gatto was in the initial breakaway. Vinny Fantini rider, their distinctive lurid yellow costume. Certainly they're easy to pick out in the bunch. And Gatto, who was with the Pelozzotti group, dropped back and is now with the group of lead favourites, and will be helping to stock up a couple of riders in there. Sant'Ambrogio, of course, is their GC leader. As we see a problem for Jackson Rodriguez, and this one's been coming because we understand and we are well aware of the fact that he has had a mechanical issue. He hasn't been able to change gears for a while, well, at least not with the rear derailleur. He's just had the front mech, and he was swapping from big chain ring to smaller chain ring. So Rodriguez has finally got a different bike, and the question is that saddle height set right for him? Doesn't look to be too bad. Certainly he should have decent gears, but this, well, it looks from the body language that he's presenting to us as if he feels that he's in trouble, and that really has affected him greatly. Confidence been dented a little bit by this?
Well, I'm not sure what his plan is at the moment. He looks to be just rolling off here, and it'll be interesting to see the group of Pelozzotti, how far they are actually back. I maybe made the mistake of looking at this 3:33 at the moment. That's back to the race leader, Nibali, of course, but I think that Pelozzotti group is not that far off him, but will he continue on with his effort here, or will he knock off and try and get allow the group to catch him and go on from there? But we can see here Sky once again pushing on, and this gap now, we're in the section of the stage today where it's going to come down very quickly. Unless they really push on out front, this gap will drop down a lot in the valley.
Sandio on the front for the Sky Pro Cycling team, as Gianni Savio, or the mechanic actually in the back of the Androni car, makes the adjustment to saddle height. So there's all you need to know. Not one of the protected riders in the team, so that bike wouldn't have had a saddle height absolutely set for him. So now they'll try and get a decent average. They need to rise it up a little bit.
Not good for morale when you have to start adjusting the saddle and you're out front leading the race, and with a nice advantage back to the big to the group of favourites. 3.5 minutes with 25 kilometres to go, as we see Powell's here coming by, so that will be a big help to Rodriguez.
Now that was the answer. Serge Powell's was in between. Where is Machado? Rodriguez is joined by Serge Pauwels and now has a saddle height a little bit closer to what he needs and what he's used to. Of course, race leader of the Androni Giocattoli team is Franco Pellizotti, who's chasing behind. And Pellizotti will have a bike on the roof that's set absolutely perfectly for him. Jackson Rodriguez will have to make do with a good average. The size of frame will be is pretty sure to be more or less spot on for him, but in terms of stem length and saddle height, well, they can adjust the saddle height and they'll get him reasonably thereabouts.
Well, it's surprising that he hasn't got a bike to his size. He's spare bike. He's race spare bike because you know, you have the team number 2 car, and if it's not on the first one, it should be on the second one. But when the break forms, like, you know, the car would stop that's out in front and would get his bike from the second car, for example, if it was on that car. So it's really surprising that they haven't a bike for everybody, because that would be the normal thing. With 2 team cars, everybody in the race should have a spare bike, but it doesn't look to the case because the saddle adjustment there, that tells the story.
Sandio on the front, driving it for the Sky Pro Cycling team. In the wake of that squad is the team of Astana and the race leader Vincenzo Nibali. Towards the back, Benyat Inchausti and co, feeling it a little bit. That's Eros Kopacki of the Movistar. His teammate is a little bit further up the group. Kopacki, already a stage winner at Giro d'Italia, will today be his day. A couple of people asking for Rodriguez's mechanical. Could his team car not have overtaken him and got the bike ready? Would have been quicker.
Well, I think the team car only arrived as we came into shot there, because we did see him with the neutral service car. He talked to them and he said, can you, get the car called up here? I need to make a bike change. There's a problem with my gearing. And I think it just arrived, and they were surprised when he went to change the bike. But yeah, the big surprise is that they did not have a bike for him. As he's been out there all day, if he was away on this final climb and went in the attack, well, then you could understand. But they had a sufficient amount of time to make that changeover.
And just to tell you, today's stage is dedicated to the fans of Giro d'Italia, who have sent in thousands of tweets in the past couple of months, many of which are painted on the road. They've been printed out on the climb to the finish at Altopiano del Montasio. So the Giro organisers giving something back to the fans. Nibali looking cool, calm and collected, but they are approaching the foothills of this final climb to Altopiano del Montasio. And this is the first big challenge of the race. It's been a very, very arduous first week of racing for these riders, but this is where the race really gets serious. And here's a confirmation and a reminder of the overall standings. That just under half a minute advantage for Vincenzo Nibali over Cadel Evans. Robert Hessink is right in contention, minute and a quarter back. Wiggins is right there too. Scarponi has surprised all with his performances, and he's safely inside the top 5, just under a minute and a half behind. Henao and Rigoberto Uran make it 3 skies in the top 10. Tamil Kangert is there to help Vincenzo Nibali. Przemysław Niemiec, as I said a little bit earlier, is an impressive contender and doing very well indeed for Lampre Merida. Pavel Brut has been shelled. His day is done in terms of challenging for stage honours. Pellizotti too, frustrated. And we saw a shot of him a few moments ago, and he was just throwing his hands up in disgust at the fact that he wasn't able to hold out in front. Question is, has he got any bit of form to stay with this group for any length of time? And how much longer can Jackson Rodriguez and Serge Pauwels stay out front? They're on a flat but gently rising slope heading towards this final climb. Pauwels, very, very strong. We haven't said too much about him so far, but doing a strong job. 65th overall at the moment, 33 minutes and 55 seconds down. Average of 7.4% and little stretches of 20% slope on this Alto Piano del Montasio. It's going to be a really big ask for all the riders. How will they get on?
Alto Piano. That means the hill of slow.
Yeah.
Altos.
Very high and very slow.
High and slow.
It's a great name, isn't it? Alto Piano del Montasio. 220. Not a hope. Chiusa forte. So that means strong, closed strong. So, Bradley, oh no, where is Bradley? Is that him? Doesn't look like his number. Yeah, looked like his number. Looked like his shoes, looked like his style. They're all in there. Have we seen Evans? Pellizzotti's still there for what that's worth. Little importance. Rosa, Evans, can't see. Somebody's asking, no, still don't see him. Oh, no, there he is there, look. Yep.
Three from Astana, 3 from Lampe Merida.
Yeah, get it right. 4 from Sky, 2 from Movistar, 2 from AG2R, 3 from AG2R.
There's a group
2 from Euskaltel. Oh no, this is the Colombians have managed to get across. 35. Kenny Des. Okay, Cadell. Stage 10 of Giro d'Italia, Cordonons to Alto Piano del Montasio, 167 kilometers in total for the riders. We're inside the final 20 kilometers, and up front Jackson Rodriguez has taken another bike. Not sure whether it was the original one that he changed over because of difficulties with his gear changing, but he's now chasing behind Serge Poels, and this is the group of the Maglia Rosa. Vincenzo Nibali safely in there, and the pace is being set by the Sky Pro Cycling squad of Bradley Wiggins, who's safely ensconced, as are all the main general classification contenders, with the exception of rider Hejidal. Well, Hejidal may have made it back in, but I don't think so. And Cadell Evans going very well in this Giro d'Italia, currently leading the points classification and very much a contender for overall honours. Let's hear from him now.
I think here we're gonna see a different set of riders ahead today, and I think we'll see a few changes in classification already. But mainly, it's the first real hilltop finish of the Giro, and that's always of any 3-week tour. The first one, I think, it gives amongst the first clear indicators of who will really be there serious for contention in Brescia. Oh, I think. More than likely, it depends on the weather and so on. I hear the first climb is very, very difficult, so maybe something could already happen there, but sure, it's what happens on the last climb that's going to count the most.
So Cadell Evans has the leader's jersey of the points classification on his shoulders, but less than half a minute behind Vincenzo Nibali. We'll hope that he can perhaps put something together to challenge for overall honours. This is the race, of course, that he first came to prominence back in 2002. And Cadell Evans, who's, of course, the Tour de France victor of 2011, finished 14th back in that Giro in 2002. This is the scene at Alto Piano del Montasio in the Carnic Alps, southern limestone Alps, and they cover regions in East Tyrol, Carinthia, Veneto, and of course today in Friuli. chilly enough at the top, but you can be sure that the riders won't be feeling any cold at the moment, because the racing is on in earnest. Hubert Dupont trying to make his way up for AG2R. Jackson Rodriguez is back with Serge Pauls, who takes a drink, and their advantage is shrinking. It was 2.5 minutes not so long ago, now within 2 minutes. And remember, this is a fully 22 kilometers climb. They're already in the lower slopes, but you can tell it's a very gentle gradient at this moment. It'll be a lot less gentle when they get to the second half. The last 11 kilometers are real leg breakers, I can tell you, with as much as 20%. And there's at 3 kilometers from kilometer 162.6 for the next 2 or 3 kilometers or so, which is about 13% average, as Konstantin Siutsu sets the pace for Sky. What's the tactic for them? Just set a steady tempo, or will we see attacks?
Well, it's going to be an interesting one, because they have taken up the race very early on today, and you know, they've been controlling for a long time now, and it'll be interesting to see, will they use the 2 Colombian riders really to make a very strong pace in this final 11 kilometers, and that's where it's going to happen. And as you get, you know, in the middle of that, about 6 kilometers, between the 5 and 6 kilometers, there is a section which is, you know, very steep, 20%, and it's, you know, it goes up to that for well over a kilometer, and that's the place I think we could see the damage being done. And you know, the riders at the moment, we can see Sitzuf riding on the front and, you know, keeping a high pace, but the other riders are the ones who will do the damage. The real good climbers, Henio and Rigoberto Uran, they will, you know, cause a lot of damage if they are called to, you know, start setting a strong pace in the front. And we can see Bradley Wiggins there, he's sitting there comfortably. Is there a tactic in this to really, you know, break up the general favourite men and test some legs today?
This group in one long line. There's a lot of pain being felt in there, and a lot of riders are starting to feel the doubt, you can be sure. A little bit of picture breakup. Let's hope that that doesn't affect us as this climb gets towards the really serious part, with 11 kilometers to go. So still quite a way before the riders reach that. Jackson Rodriguez is up front with Serge Pauls. And interestingly enough, the reigning champion Ryder Hagedal has really been struggling today, out the back on the first climb, and chasing for much longer than he would have hoped, and hoped indeed that he would have made some sort of a recovery after his difficulties in Sunday's stage. Not the ideal time trial performance for him. And the reigning champion Ryder Hagedal sitting in 11th position overall. Does he still have dreams?
Tough racing. I mean, I'm still 3 minutes down, less than 2 minutes off the podium. I mean, it's going to be a big race for everybody these last stages. So, you know, we can look back when it's over and see what the differences were. But I'm just happy to be here and still be in the race and be no major problems. So that's the way it is.
So Ryder Hagedal sitting in 11th position overall, but not as strong perhaps as he would hope. Now these riders up front inside the final 16 kilometers have a little conversation between them. Do they believe it can happen?
I doubt it very much. I believe, because you know, with the advantage they have at the moment, and the peloton of big favourites here, with a lot of their teammates with them, and that's going to be the real killer. There's not going to be a time where the favourites will start looking at each other when we get the 14-15 kilometre mark. If it was a very small group of 10 or 12 riders of favourites chasing, well then you might get that advantage, but they're not going to get it here. And we can see Sky are, you know, keeping the pace quite high, and as we go through the 15 kilometres to go mark, that is the problem. The group chasing down is very big, and too big for 2 riders to hold on out front.
Jackson Rodriguez of Androni Giocattoli Venezuela takes on some sustenance. There's still a lot of racing to go for these riders. And let's get an indication of what their advantage is. Clearly it's shrinking fast. As the Sky team continue to drive it on. So there's 4 Sky team up front. 4 members of the Astana team, including race leader Vincenzo Nibali. At least a couple of Blancos, including, of course, Robert Hessing, 3rd overall. Two members of the Saxo Bank, Tinkoff Bank. Three from AG2R up there. 2 from Euskaltel. And Lampre Merida are well represented as well. They've got 3. BMC, it looks as if Cadell Evans has 1 man for company. 2 Movistar riders. One of which, of course, will be Benjatin Schausti, who's been going well so far today. Serge Powell's working hard on the front. Jackson Rodriguez takes a little breather behind. And Sean, these riders are coming back at some stage. Do you feel confident about that? Have they got any chance whatsoever of staying out front? Is Rodriguez, can he have saved anything? Of the 2, is he the more likely?
No, I don't think the 2 out front have any chance. And Jackson Rodriguez has been out there, as Serge Powers has been in this breakaway for a long time. And you know, the peloton is much too close here. They would need 3+ minutes here at this point after being out in the break all day. And you can see the advantage, like it's minimum well under the minute at the moment. And that's not going to be sufficient at all. And you know, they are starting to wind up here. We can see, you know, the Sky team is pushing on the front, and they are going to, you know, keep this pace and up it as we go into the climb. And that gap, I think, when we get to the steeper sections in that final number of kilometers, well, then if they're still hanging out there, well, they will come back so quickly at that point.
Well, Zandio is back in the cars. He's done a long section in between the 2 hills. And now he's handed over to Siutsu to set the pace. Bradley Wiggins sitting very comfortably indeed, a 3rd wheel of the riders in black and blue, Sky Pro Cycling. Next up is Tanel Kangert, who's wearing the colours of the Estonian national road race champion, and his teammates from Astana in line astern. And then the Maglia Rosa of the race leader Vincenzo Nibali. A couple of Katusha riders next up in those very distinctive red and white colours. Harada of Movistar going well. Still comfortably in there, turning a lower gear, spinning a lower gear than the riders around him. That's usually a sign that a rider's feeling reasonably good, not always, of course. And now Bradley Wiggins moving up on the outside. I did say he was 3rd in line. That actually was Dario Cataldo. So Bradley Wiggins had just dropped a little bit further back in the group, taking plenty of shelter. They're going along at a reasonable clip here, and there will be a benefit from sitting in the group. And always some very creative exhibits for the helicopters. It's the Giro, and it's in the Friuli region. Back in Friuli for the first time since 2011. And beautiful weather for the riders. a source of major relief to absolutely everyone in the peloton, because they've been battered by wind and rain in the first 9 days of racing. And now we start to hit the bit where this really hurts. And I wonder, Sean, whether we'll see what sort of gear combinations we're going to see. With sections of this climb as much as 20%, I think it's pretty likely that we're going to see compact chain sets in use. And we did see earlier in the first week, of course, Bradley Wiggins had a 36 ring option on his Shimano up front.
Yes, I think the 36-29. That is the possible ratio now, and I think there will be a lot of the riders using that. And it's going to be an exciting final here, because you can see the number of riders. We've got you know, some very good climbers here. AG2R especially, I think when you look at, you know, they have got Betancourt, and he's going to try and go in the attack. And you know, there's a lot of other riders as well. The Lamprey riders, I think Serpa could be in there. It looks like he's back there in that group. So you know, there's some very good climbers. All want to get a stage victory, and they're definitely going to go in the attack. And in the steep section, you know, in that final 4.5 kilometers, they're going to really go for there, and it's a matter of how long they will hold off. And I think it's the real time to go on the attack. I mean, inside that 4.5 kilometers, it's a perfect launching pad.
We'll keep an eye out for that. Not everyone is watching the Giro today, or maybe that guy's just trying to get a bird's eye view of the action as the riders work their way towards the summit of Alto Piano del Montasio. A couple of bits of news. Happy birthday to Martin Winans, 31 today, the man from Blanco, former Belgian under-23 champion. He is celebrating his birthday, so it's a slice of cake for him tonight. And one of the riders who didn't sign on today, John Degenkolb, has decided that his participation in Giro 2013 is complete. Took victory of course at Cosenza in the 5th stage, so it's been a successful Giro for the young German rider, and it doesn't really fancy the big climbs, so Degenkolb heads home, and the Argus Shimano team left rudderless in terms of sprint performances, and no doubt those riders will be involved in the breaks in the days to come.
Yes, and of course not a lot of opportunities for the sprinters. Degenkolb, when you look at the rest of this Giro route, you know, there's the mountain stage after mountain stage, and I suppose yeah, he made the calculation, tried to haul himself over the mountain stage today. You know, he's not one that can do that very well. He suffers a lot, and just decided, got his stage victory, and a way to rest up, and possibly the Tour of France is the next target for him.
Sietsu sets the pace on the front. 4 riders in this group as we hit the final 10 kilometers of stage 10 of Giro d'Italia. And Sietsu really is a rock, isn't he, for the Sky team? It's amazing the tempo he's able to see. It just blows a little bit there as you get an indication that he's starting to feel it. Still a long way to go in this climb. But as you say, Sean, as it levels off a little bit towards the top, he'll want to perhaps deliver, indeed the other Sky riders want to deliver Wiggins in the best possible position to the last 4 kilometres rather than the last kilometre. As the cracks start up here in the lead group, it's starting to thin out. Steph Clement of the Blanco team gets a moment's reprieve. One wonders how much longer he's going to last. He pulls a little bit over to the right-hand side, and I suspect that was it for him. Rodriguez and Powell's tapping out the rhythm, but their time out front is almost at an end. That's Kelderman. Kelderman is struggling, the leader of the young rider competition for Blanco. Wilco Kelderman has a 43-second advantage over Rafael Maika of the Taxo Saxo Tinkoff Bank squad. Now, it's been a great effort from these riders. As I said at the top of the show, the first hour was covered at over 49 kilometres an hour. It took a long time, difficulty for these break to really establish their advantage. So lots of hard racing done for them very early in the day, and as the riders hit the last 10 kilometres, breakaway riders have been swept up, and it's left to the leading contenders. So congratulations and well done to Serge Pauls and Jackson Rodriguez of Androni Giocattoli, and he's not the only Androni rider feeling the pinch. And Pauls thinks about trying to tuck in and last in this group as long as possible. So obviously feels like he's still got something in the legs, but well, one wonders for how much longer.
Sammy.
Yeah, Sanchez not enjoying it. Getting towards the danger zone in this group, Samuel Sanchez. Gianpaolo Caruso too, who's one of the better placed Katusha riders. 6 minutes and 36 seconds down, but looking very, very composed indeed at the moment is Vincenzo Nibali, showing no signs of difficulty. And there is Cadel Evans. That distinctive little lean to the left. He drops the left shoulder. Sitting close behind Vincenzo Nibali.
We see Cataldo takes up the pace on the front here for the Sky team with Rigoberto Uran just in his wheel. Wiggins a little bit further off here at the moment, but Zandio, another one who has done a great job here. He's been setting that pace for quite a long time, as we see Sitsu, you know, two real powerhouses in the team, and it's causing problems, as we can see here on the rear end. A lot of guys losing
Kangert's gone. Yeah, Tanel Kangert, who's been such a wonderful domestique for Vincenzo Nibali, in the top 10, but struggling to hold his place. He's done great work for Nibali. That's a little bit of a concern because Bradley Wiggins still has plenty of support. Franco Pellizzotti's still in here after his little sojourn out front. He was out front for quite a while. And they're all grimacing in the wheel. Danilo De Luca takes a drink, but well, one of the few riders that isn't grimacing is the race leader, Vincenzo Nibali. Rigoberto Uran feeling the pace a little bit. Nine kilometers to go. Just over 7% average through this kilometre. So still the gradient is steep, but at a manageable level. And he's pulling lots of faces, but he's right up there. So De Luca, what's he got in mind? Has he got personal ambition, or will he be looking after Mauro Sant'Ambrogio, his Vinny Fantini teammate, who's still in the group and going well? And this is a tortuous pace that has been set. Cataldo, reigning Italian national time trial champion. It was sick in the first week, but seems to have recovered. And setting a searing pace. At the back, and of little value, you would have to say, for Astana at this point is Valeri Agnoli, but he's done great work for Nibali today.
Kreuzwick Blanco also in difficulty, and Cataldo is starting to just turn up the pace a little bit, and it seems that he's putting everybody in a little bit of the uncomfort zone, and again, how long will he keep that going for? And it's going to be interesting when he does peel off within Sky Team. Are we going to see Rigoberto Uran, who was very much to the front there? We see Henio is a bit further back with Bradley Wiggins, so they still have a lot of manpower left in that leading group.
Sky looking strong, a little bit less so, as is this Uran has struck out for glory. An interesting development here, but perhaps not unexpected as the Sky team get going and are putting it up to the Astana squad. Vincenzo Nibali a little bit underrepresented at the front of the group. So now a decision to be made for Vincenzo Nibali, because Rigoberto Uran is a very, very strong rider and a very, very serious contender, remember, for overall victory. Uran sitting 9th overall, within 2:49 of Vincenzo Nibali's lead, and capable of doing great things. The winner of the young rider classification in last year's Giro d'Italia, looking very comfortable and composed at the moment with 7.5 kilometers to go. It's the obvious tactic, and this is a big question. And of great relief to Vincenzo Nibali is the fact that Valerio Agnoli has worked his way back up to the front and is attempting to chase down Rigoberto Uran. So the team minor players, for want of a better phrase, are coming to the front. So Vincenzo Nibali facing the attacks from the Sky team.
Ma potrebbe essere sicuramente così, però bisogna vedere. Oggi il primo arrivo in salita, vedremo un po' come va. Sicuramente tanti corridori tenteranno la fuga, molti attaccheranno, quindi
probably to defend will be better than to attack. Anyway, we need to see how it will go, because this is the first time with a big climb, so lots of riders will try to make an escape. He's absolutely right. Rigoberto Uran is one of them for the Sky team. 9th overall, as I say, less than 3 minutes back, looking comfortable and out front of Giro d'Italia.
Yes, and I think this is just a tactic to make it difficult for everybody, make the team of Nibali and Astana do the chasing. We can see there they've put a man on the front. Agnoli was just sitting in the group there, but now he has to go to the front and keep the pace high, because otherwise the gap will grow out very quickly. But it's going to be interesting when he does peel off, who's going to take the pace setting.
So who's going to crack first? Will it be Rigoberto Uran out front for Sky Pro Cycling, or will it be Valerio Agnoli of the Astana team? Of the two, the one pulling the big faces at the moment is Agnoli, who's absolutely burying himself to try and drag this group back up to a man who is a serious overall threat. So the Sky have played their first card in a big way. They've softened everyone up on the first climb of the day. They've softened them up on the lower slopes of this, the second and final climb of the day, up to Altopiano del Montasio. And now Rigoberto Uran has opened up what's a relatively significant gap, and Agnoli doesn't seem as if he's capable of closing it at the moment. So what does Nibali do? Does he take up the chase himself and perhaps leave himself vulnerable to attacks from the likes of Bradley Wiggins, Cadel Evans, Robert Hessink and et al. Later in the stage? Uran looking good at the moment, Sean.
Yes, looking comfortable, and he's going at a good pace there. Pulled out a nice advantage, but is not giving it 100%. You can see the way he's riding, the way he's looking there, and Agnoli will just have to keep on making the pace, not allow him to take too much an advantage. That's what they've got to do within Astana, and then when the attacks come, the Nibali will have to respond. Of course, he has a little bit of play here with the 2:49 back for Uran at the moment. He's not a big danger at the moment, but still, you have to have somebody, and they will be happy within the Astana team. They have somebody who can make the pace for the moment.
Well, remember, there's 20 seconds on offer for the winner of the stage in terms of time bonus. There's also 6 seconds for the first rider through the intermediate sprint point, not really a sprint point, it's on a hill, very much on a hill, and that comes with 5 kilometers to go. So within a couple of kilometers, Rigoberto Uran could inch a little bit closer. He's got 17 seconds of an advantage. Agnoli still sets the tempo on the front, but Uran looking strong. Scott Burton has tweeted to @DQ Sport, Cadel is looking as good as I've ever seen him. Big danger as he will only get stronger. Well, Cadel Evans certainly is proven over 3 weeks. And he has had a relatively quiet start to the year, so you would expect that this race is playing to his strengths, and at the moment looks very comfortable in the group in that red jersey, just behind the massed ranks of Lampre Merida and Astana at the front, as the Sky team watch to see how the Astana squad, Vinny Fantini also represented by Danilo De Luca right to the fore, but De Luca not contributing to the pace at the moment. And Uran looks, well, he almost looks like a man waiting for the bus. He looks very, very controlled, doesn't he? He looks quite comfortable at the moment. Has he decided to throttle back? No, he's pushing on.
Pushing on, but not giving his total push at the moment. We can see there he's just, working away at it, and it'll be interesting to see what the tactic will be. He's going to keep that advantage and just stay out there, and when you're feeling comfortable, well, then it's easy to do, and he is not, as you see Agnoli here, who is really suffering and started a lot of movement on the bike. We can see also De Luca there starting to suffer a bit, and I think we're coming to the point now where there will be some of the other riders going the attack, and that's when we'll see the favourites. We can say the favourites are looking good. This guy is looking real good in the past week, but today I think we will see a clearer picture as we get further to the climb, and as we get into this difficult part, we will see any cracks that are in the big favourites. We will see some of them today.
Now, one of the cracks appearing in the group, Danilo De Luca sitting second wheel, not really sure what his tactic was, but feeling the pace and just gave a little elbow flick and handed it over to Vincenzo Nibali, sitting in the wheel tracks of his teammate Valerio Agnoli, doing a very fine job indeed. But now the 30 seconds is the gap between them, so another 6 seconds on offer, of course, for... And De Luca's gone, De Luca's cracked. The man they called the killer. Well, he likes to call himself the killer, doesn't he?
And of course the other big favourite, Haijdal, he's not in this group, and he was in difficulty very early in the stage today, so that is one of the big favourites who is really going to go out of contention in the general classification.
Yeah, we're going to see changes in the top 10, changes in the top 11, because Ryder Haijdal is going to drop out of contention altogether, and for Haijdal it looks as if his dreams of back-to-back Giro glory are up. Dario Cataldo takes a well-earned drink. Has he got a little bit in the tank to chase again? Agnoli's pulling all sorts of faces, but he's still managing to set a tempo on the front. Now he's losing time to Uran, but perhaps Nibali will calculate that the amount of time he's losing is time that he can deal with.
Yes, I think well, it can be easy recovered in the final kilometres here. We're coming to the 5 kilometres to go, and that's when it gets really difficult, and there is sufficient time left to do that, and of course there is that buffer there as well back to Uran, which is 2:49 in general classification, but you can be sure that Nibali is making the calculation. They're going to somebody attack here in the final kilometre. Scarponi, we can see him sitting there. He's going to try as well if he's got the legs at all. And when you look at the number of big favourites here, there's some of them who are going to be feeling good, and they will go on the attack. And the advantage then to our leader out in front, Rigoberto Uran, that will come down very quickly. We'll see now at 5 kilometres to go what his advantage will be.
So we're inside 5 kilometres to go and approaching the intermediate sprint point, and Rigoberto Uran has an advantage of about a half a minute. Steals a little look over his shoulder to see where the group are, just to get visual confirmation. And there's a very, very steep ramp coming up with about 3 kilometres to go. And we'll see if they've saved much energy for that. Darren Hilliard says, I reckon Sky have sent Uran up front for Bradley to jump up to. Well, that would very much seem to be the tactic. As much as anything, it's to see, can Vincenzo Nibali be made to make the chase? And riders with general classification honours will watch to take advantage of the effort that Nibali will make in doing that. Here we come to the intermediate sprint point at Sella Nevia. No doubt, but Rigoberto Uran is going to take the 15 points towards the points classification. That's of limited concern to him. He's more interested in the 6 seconds on offer towards the overall. And probably more than anything, he's thinking about the pain and suffering that he's causing to Agnoli and co behind. This group being whittled down, but it's still a decent size. And they all steal a little look behind to see what the gradient is like heading through this this hairpin and towards the next section. Scarponi looking relatively relaxed. The man from Lampre Merida. The man second in line here is Nibali, takes it up on the front. What a great job was done by Agnoli there, but he's a spent force now. He's given his all in the service of his team leader, Vincenzo Nibali. Now he'll be left to his own devices, and an attack comes from Vincenzo Nibali just to make sure that he takes the points. So it's Nibali that takes the 3 seconds on offer for second man through there. So just traded 3 seconds to Rigoberto Uran and extends his advantage over Cadel Evans. And Evans arrives at the front, is probably thinking more about attacking. Now 50 seconds, so it's getting up towards a minute. Rigoberto Uran is doing a fantastic job. Is he racing towards stage honours today? Rafael Majka of the Saxo Tinkoff Bank team on the left-hand side. Out of the saddle, crouching style of Cadel Evans in the points leaders jersey. For BMC as a spectator, takes a dive on the right-hand side. Nibali still looks very controlled indeed. Scarponi feeling the pain. And oops.
We can see a lot of riders looking at each other here for the moment, looking about. We could see Bradley Wiggins there as well. He was pulling the face a bit there back in the second line, but for the moment they're all looking at each other, and Rigoberto Uran is just doing a marvellous little ride here. He's just working away at it. Doesn't look like he's really giving it 100%, but the clock is telling he's pulling out all the time.
Yeah, well, this is the part of the climb that you targeted for the attacks, Sean. It's the toughest part of the hill. You can really see that the Hainau has gone south again, so one Colombian north, one Colombian south. Cataldo too is struggling. Pellizotti was out front earlier in the stage, but still there is a decent sized group of classification favourites, and Vincenzo Nibali has been equal to every attack so far, although at the moment he doesn't seem that interested in chasing down Rigoberto Uran up front. Lampre Merida are having a little think about it. Rafael Majka arrives. He's challenging, of course, for the young rider classification.
We can see the two riders from AG2R having a discussion there, Betancourt and Pozzovivo. So they will have to do something here, because this is an opportunity for them. Real steep sections here, and that's where they can create a lot of damage.
So 16th overall for the young Polish rider, Rafael Majka, making a name for himself. But up front, the man who won the young riders classification last season, Rigoberto Uran. His advantage just closes, narrows by about 2 seconds. Is that a result of the gradient? I suspect it is.
Betancourt in difficulty.
Yeah, Betancourt, after all his efforts a couple of days ago.
I think there was some problem in the group there. I could see Cadel Evans, he had to move out quite a bit. There seemed to be a little bit of pushing back in the group there, 150 metres further back.
So Beñat Inchausti has struck out for glory. The Movistar rider who was in the Maglia Rosa a couple of days ago. It's responded to by Rafael Majka. And Vincenzo Nibali is deciding not to, or maybe he just plain can't, as Hessink is feeling the pinch.
And Bradley Wiggins is starting to feel the pinch here.
Oh, and Bradley Wiggins has let a few bike lengths go, and this is a critical moment. This the steepest part of this climb, and perhaps the part of the climb that you would have expected that Bradley Wiggins would like the least. But some of the smaller, lighter riders are pressing on, and this is a key moment in Giro d'Italia. Vincenzo Nibali seems comfortable.
Pozzovivo.
Yeah, it's Pozzovivo.
Kieselowski from Radio Shack looking comfortable at the moment, and this is where Pozzovivo can, do the damage. Because
well, he's the smallest rider in the group.
Such a light wet.
Yeah, and it's the very, very steep slopes that really come to his he comes into his own. Nibali is still there, and Bradley Wiggins is grimacing and desperately trying to get back into contention. He's got Michele Scarponi for company. Well, he had. Up front, Rigoberto Uran has a little look behind and still has a decent advantage. He's been through the worst of this. 3 kilometers to go, though, and it's still steep. Just starts to level off in the last kilometer. Over 6%. Scarponi looks around to see what horrors await. Inchausti feeling it, so too is Bradley Wiggins, who's got ahead of Scarponi now. But there's still distance between himself and Nibali up front. And could we be seeing a change in the order at Sky Pro Cycling? They've sent Rigoberto Uran up front as a stalking horse, but Bradley Wiggins not able to follow the other main favourites, and grimacing and hanging on desperately in there is Cadel Evans. Doing a wonderful job, he is too. So Pozzovivo is just ahead, well, by several bike lengths from Vincenzo Nibali as they hit the 3 kilometers to go point. And of the main contenders, the one that's looking strongest at the moment is Vincenzo Nibali. Now it's less than half a minute, so his advantage is shrinking fast. And that's bad news for Sky Pro Cycling. Where is Bradley Wiggins? Can he get back up to this group as it levels off towards the top? The very, very steepest slopes don't suit him. Anything up to maybe 7–8%, not so bad. Anything over that and things get a little bit more difficult. Well, Wiggins is on his own now. And he knows what he needs to do. There are no tactics. Scarponi feeling very, very... well, he's probably feeling awful, I'd imagine.
Well, I think Scarponi went to a difficult section, a difficult part on the real steep section, but he seemed to recover there and getting back there. You can see also getting there, getting to the rhythm a bit here, and we can see here Pozzovivo just holding on out front, but Nibali looking very comfortable there. But I think the danger man there is Betancourt. He seemed to be just waiting, and he is going to certainly put in a big attack here.
This is the front of the race with Rigoberto Uran. His advantage now less than half a minute. Domenico Pozzovivo of AG2R is attempting to chase him down. You just got a shot of him there. Pozzovivo holding a narrow advantage over what's left of the leaders group, with Vincenzo Nibali chasing hard.
Betancourt. Cadel Evans also there in that group. We see Mike from the Team Saxo. So
it is Betancourt. He managed to get back in there, and that's impressive work by the Colombian rider. So Colombians making their mark.
Sant'Ambrogio from Vini Fantini also just hanging on the rear of that group of 5–6 riders.
Pozzovivo's hanging on to this narrow advantage. Where is Bradley Wiggins? How far back is he? And with just 2 kilometers to go, What are his opportunities of getting back to the Vincenzo Nibali group? He says he's been climbing better than ever. Says he's in the best condition he's ever been in. But for Bradley Wiggins, the very steepest sections, he's through them at this point. So now it starts to level out a bit. It's 3.6% for the final kilometre, and we've 1.8k to go for the race, for the stage leader, Rigoberto Uran. Uran being stalked by Domenico Pozzovivo of the AG2R squad, moved across from Colnago to the French team this year. And the Italian rider looks like he's being closed down by Cadel Evans and Vincenzo Nibali. Betancourt in there too, and Bradley Wiggins is not too far back. And just behind him, the Inchausti and Scarponi group. So now, Pozzovivo has been controlled. So his bid for glory, not a successful one, as the gradient shallowed, his advantage narrowed. And now it looks as if Inchausti is going to come up to the wheel of Bradley Wiggins, who's really, really feeling it. So now 19 seconds from the Maglia Rosa group to Rigoberto Uran up front. And about 23 seconds between this group, including Vincenzo Nibali and Bradley Wiggins, chasing hard. And it's Cadel Evans who's got the word that Bradley Wiggins is in trouble, and Evans sets a tempo to try and eliminate another classification contender, or at least put a little bit of distance on general classification between himself and Bradley Wiggins, and flicks his elbow. Nibali not interested. And Vincenzo Nibali, for him at the moment, this has been a wonderful stage. He's been able to answer every question that's been asked. And now Bradley Wiggins has been joined, but no contribution in effort. Attacks coming up front, and it's Betancourt of AG2R. Mike is not interested, Cadel Evans less interested too. They'll try and set a steady tempo. Where is Rigoberto Uran? Inside the last 1.5 kilometres. Betancourt not really a major threat overall. And here comes Uran inside the final kilometre for the Colombian rider, riding towards stage glory.
It's Nibali who takes it up after Betancourt once again. Betancourt, we see there, you know, he's giving his all. It will be interesting to see what's up front, but we can see there that Nibali very active here, and Cadel Evans pushes on again to try and get back to Betancourt, and of course Rigoberto Uran just still holding on out there. It looks like he having, what, 15-20 seconds of advantage all the time.
Well, Pozzovivo goes to the back of this group on the wheel of Vincenzo Nibali, the race leader. Rafael Maicas in there as Bradley Wiggins continues his lone chase. It's been a desperately difficult hill for Bradley Wiggins. Just when it got to his steepest, as his teammate Rigoberto Uran heading towards the finish. It's been a wonderful performance from him, sent out front, and he was equal to the job, and now he's in a position almost to coast to the finish line, as this group of favourites will jockey for position because there are bonus seconds on offer, and Vincenzo Nibali fancies some of those. Nibali has got a gap, and he's going to take more than bonus seconds, could well take a couple of extra seconds for GC as well, as Uran grimaces and makes the final push in this final slope towards Altopiano del Montasio. It's been an absolutely stellar performance by the man from Colombia, the man from the Sky Pro Cycling team, as he looks over his right shoulder and sees no rider within sight. He'll push all the way to the line for the general classification time, but inside the final 100 metres, out of the saddle, time to zip up the jersey and put his arm in the air. Stage victory goes to Rigoberto Uran of the Sky Pro Cycling team. Finally, he's able to smile. Who's going to be first to emerge through the dust of the motorbikes? Is it going to be Vincenzo Nibali? It absolutely is. He's got a few bike lengths advantage over Cadel Evans, and it's second across the line for AG2R. Carlos Betancourt, who had headed out of that group, and Vincenzo Nibali is trying to distance himself from Cadel Evans. He'll take the final bonus seconds on offer. He finishes third and just pipped by Cadel Evans. Sant'Ambrogio, good performance by him for Vinny Fantini, but no doubt about who took stage honours now. Where is Bradley Wiggins? The clock ticks down. Uran with 20 seconds advantage over Carlos Betancourt, and a half a minute to the good.
As we see, Bradley Wiggins coming in here is going to lose over a minute, and Nibali, of course, at 30 seconds, Evans at 32, Bradley Wiggins at 1:07, 1:08.
So the difficult Giro d'Italia of 2013 continues for Bradley Wiggins, who loses over a minute to his teammate, who took a wonderful stage victory, and in the process lost over half a minute to the group of favourites, including Vincenzo Nibali, Cadel Evans et al. Here comes Franco Pelazzotti. Tough day for all these riders. Siutsu in there for the Sky team, still managed to retain the energy after his efforts to finish well up on the stage. But it's Rigoberto Uran that takes stage honours as Pelazzotti makes his way across the line. And Sean, that was a tactic that backfired a little bit for Sky Pro Cycling, or will they be relieved at least that Uran is still very much a contender?
Well, I think you know, it puts Uran into being in a dangerous position, and maybe the tactic was that they were going to try something you know, further up the climb with probably, you know, Bradley Wiggins. But if you haven't got the legs, well then, you know, you just leave Rigoberto Uran continue, and it's just difficult to know exactly. But I think it was to make the race difficult for everybody and see what the other big favourites, what way they will react. But unfortunately, Bradley Wiggins wasn't really on the better day, on the best of days, and you know, he just loses that you know, 35 to 40 seconds on Nibali once again, and also on Cadel Evans. So the general classification, you know, is getting a little bit complicated, more complicated now, because losing time here again today, it puts them that bit further down in the general classification.
Carlos Betancourt is second for the second stage in succession. Vincenzo Nibali takes some bonus seconds with third across the line. There's confirmation of the results of stage 10 of Giro d'Italia, with Rigoberto Uran taking victory for Sky Pro Cycling ahead of Carlos Betancourt of AG2R, and Vincenzo Nibali in third place. Sant'Ambrogio just pips Cadel Evans for fourth position. Maika handily placed for Saxo Tinkoff. Pozzovivo, great effort, seventh is the best he could manage. Kieselowski well to the fore. Benjatin Schausti recovers to finish ninth, and Bradley Wiggins 1 minute and 8 seconds behind his teammate in 10th position on the stage, and over 30 seconds behind Vincenzo Nibali, Cadel Evans. These are scenes as Rigoberto Uran accepts the plaudits of the crowd with his wonderful stage victory. And now the question is, will Sky's tactics change? Will perhaps they consider the possibility that Rigoberto Uran is a rider that they should think about for overall victory? Oh, and there was just a little moment of little problem there for Vincenzo Nibali, and Cadel Evans looked to take advantage of it. Betancourt was ahead, but Nibali was able to Did he pull a foot out? No, was it a chain issue?
Yes, a chain
Second
issue.
time in the stage too.
Yes, and that's corrected very quickly there, because he lost a little bit of ground there, but again, when he gets going, continues on, getting back into the wheel of Cat 11s and just goes for the attack. And Nibali is looking very impressive on the final climb. They are never really in difficulty, setting the pace when it needed to be done, and I think he's looking you know, really good in the pink jersey.
Now he's faced down every difficulty that's been presented to him. No problems for Vincenzo Nibali, and another good strong performance by Cadel Evans. But he'll be wondering at this point, how does he get back on terms? So there's confirmation of the overall standings, with Vincenzo Nibali extending his advantage over Cadel Evans by 12 seconds. Now 41 seconds between the top two. And Rigoberto Uran has leapt up to third, 2 minutes and 4 seconds in arrears. Bradley Wiggins still in fourth position, Sky with cards to play, but Wiggins will be left contemplating the fact that Uran now in third. Robert Hessink slips from third to fifth. Scarponi drops down to sixth position. Sant'Ambrogio is still handily placed in the top 10. Niemic also, and Domenico Pozzovivo of AG2R Le Mondial moves into the top 10 ahead of Rafael Majka.